Hi, and welcome to Dipping in and Out with Lucy, the podcast that opens up the discussion around domestic abuse. I'm very fortunate on this lovely sunny morning to be sitting down with Fran Murphy. Fran is somebody I've met previously. She is an advocate, victim survivor, but so much more, and a lovely individual to boot. So, good morning, Fran.
Oh, good morning, Lucy. Lovely, lovely to join you this morning.
Oh, thank you. And I'm very grateful for you for being here. I know you're very busy. Um, so if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your journey, and we'll go from there as we do.
Yeah, amazing. No, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's just great to be able to speak out from where I am now because I still have to sort of, pinch myself about where I am now in my life compared to where I was. And my story, whilst it won't be the same as anybody else's, the key factors in it are just so similar to so many people that just go through this awful thing. I've lived my life a bit backwards. I used to be very, very successful in my professional career and everything, and I just sort of lost my way, sort of through my 30s and everything. And I used to go just from relationship to relationship. I had this absolute need just to be loved, and just wanted somebody to come and save me. And I loved it if I could get somebody to get with who I could fix, who needed me and and loved me but I really confused like love and obsession and all of those things in the wrong way. And I went through a cycle. I couldn't be on my own. I absolutely couldn't be on my own, and I completely confused this neediness with what was going on with me. And I'd go from this tragic relationship to tragic relationship, and it was it was just horrific. And as I went on, my judgment of people was just getting worse and worse. I've got two daughters. I do have both my daughters have different fathers, and I split up with my oldest daughter's dad about 17 years ago. And it's really funny because today he's like my best friend and really important
Oh,
part of my life
yeah.
today. However, with my youngest daughter, her father's not involved, but I got through to COVID and I had moved house yet again because I used to do what's called a lot of geographicals where I'd move and it would be different this time.
Yeah. I love that.
And I'd go all over and it's going to be all different. It's going to be all different. And things were quite hedonistic. I don't make any secret of the fact that today I'm in recovery from alcohol and substance abuse, and things were quite messy on that path. And my life was just going in a bit of a downward spiral. But at the time, it happened so like it was so difficult to spot where it was going, and I hid this. I couldn't accept that I had a big problem, a big drinking problem. And so I met somebody at the start of COVID, and we were introduced by a sort of acquaintance, really.
Yeah.
And I got with this guy really quickly, and he suggested that we form a bubble. And there is a saying that no man falls in love quicker than one that hasn't got anywhere to live, and
Yeah.
that was the case me. And he moved in after 2 weeks. But this wasn't out of the ordinary for me for the honeymoon period and the fireworks and this.
Yeah.
And like I said previously, I completely confused what I thought was love and with jealousy. And if somebody was really obsessed with me, I thought that this was good. It meant how much they loved me. And I
Yeah.
just was I just lost my way, and I'd lost track of reality and what was normal. So when this guy was like, "Yeah, I'll move in, and we'll form a bubble, and we'll do, and all this
Amazing.
amazing, and we'll go and do the tuna pasta and COVID and banana bread, and it'll be lovely." Sold me this COVID dream,
Yeah.
and it was horrific. It was absolutely horrific. And all the single, I mean, there could have been a bullfight. There was that many red flags. It was horrific. And I ignored them all. And he came with a lot of substance abuse problems, and I was going to save him. even though I was drowning in my own issues. And you know, we were going to be this Bonnie and Clyde, and it was going to be amazing. And all these red flags, which were just horrific. You know, the story. I joke about this, and it's not a joke because I'm sure that these men read a manual, and so the ex-girlfriends were all mental. The mother
Yeah.
of his children, they were even crazier.
Yeah.
She was mental. She, you know, and I'm lapping this up, and it's quite scary to think at the time and how it was done. And this really scary thing about during COVID was that I had nobody external.
Yeah.
So whereby before, like I did have people sort of saying to me previously, you know, you need to sort things out and da da da. But this time I was completely isolated. My parents lived in a retirement village, so I couldn't go and see them because of the risk with COVID and
Of
everything. I
course.
was
Yeah.
completely cut off. Um, so he had complete access to my phone, to my finances, to absolutely everything. And it got really toxic and really violent quite quickly. And I was sort of making excuses for it. And I had, like I say, I had no external things coming in. And I was also treated really badly by the police. There were quite a few times when the police were called to my house, either by myself, by neighbours, by people walking by who could hear. And the police would come, and unfortunately, I would be intoxicated. So I would be extremely upset. And I'm really quite
Yeah.
vocal and so I would come across really badly. So when he was sat all calm, look, told you she's crazy. She's crazy. I told you, look at her, she's mental.
Mm.
And that went on. I think the police came out about 18 times. And it was a very short relationship. So you get a picture of and the violence was horrific. It was really, really horrific. He would go in psychosis and attack me, and it was really, really bad. And I was just drinking myself into oblivion to try and block this out. So the worse it got, the worse my drinking was. And I'm not saying he was the cause of my drinking. He wasn't. However, he liked that because
Yeah.
it meant that he had that form of control over me. Meanwhile, he was using my bank account. He was texting my parents, asking for money to get sent to his account, which I didn't know at the time. It was horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous. We had services involved. And unfortunately, I was always painted as, from sort of services angle, I was painted as, well, just leave him, you know, just leave him, just leave
Because
him.
it's that easy.
And it's that easy. And that was so frustrating for me because I felt like, obviously, services, social services are there for the child, absolutely. But I've since done a lot of work with them about, you know, you've got to put yourself in the mind of the mother. It was my home, you know,
Yeah.
and he wouldn't go anywhere. He wouldn't leave. I'd try and get him to leave, and he wouldn't. And his mother
Yeah.
didn't want him, and all of these things. So it was really difficult. And I just felt like every angle was on me. And it was just absolutely horrific. I just felt like I had nowhere to turn. And then we'd do the cycle of abuse. So we'd have um you know, after each incident, the honeymoon period. So
Yeah.
he'd come back with like bottles of wine and stuff. And oh, come on, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. I didn't
Yeah.
mean all this. I'm
We
sat
can
with a
get
black.
through this. We'll be
We'll
okay.
get through this.
Yeah.
Come on, it's me and you, and we'll do
Yeah.
this. And I've got a black eye and the rest of it. I've knocked my teeth out, but we'll do it. We'll sort it. I am so sorry. It wasn't me. And da 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 da. And that cycle would then continue again and again and again. Um, to the point where services had to get more involved, and I just said, I can't have my child witnessing this anymore. She's going to have to go and stay with somebody because this is just hell.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, this was in the October 21, and I think at that point I knew I need to start this cannot continue. This is
No.
just so bad. I cannot continue. And then again, the police would do things like they'd stop him coming to the house like for 28 days, and then he'd worm his way in. The police would come and find him in a cupboard and think I was hiding him, and I just wanted to scream.
Yeah.
And at no point did the police ever offer me Clare's Law, which is so disappointing because would
Yeah.
it have changed anything? I don't know, but
You'll
I
never
wasn't given
know.
the option. I'll never
No,
know.
exactly. Yeah.
And since the things I found out about his previous are absolutely horrific. So when we got to the November time, this is where it all gets really crazy because he was given what's called an offender management officer because he
Right.
was deemed so dangerous. Yet I'd been arrested. The police took my phone off me, sent me back to the house where they knew he'd be. And they then arrested him for attacking another woman whilst I'm there still living with him. There was this catalogue of mad errors whilst
Yeah.
giving him this offender management officer, which unfortunately really backfired because then he used that against me. So
Yes.
he
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
this officer working with him. I had no
Mm.
one.
Yeah. You had
And
no support
I've
whatsoever,
got no
and he's
support,
yeah.
and he's got a dedicated officer. So this officer, he'd come and pick him up in an unmarked car, and they'd go off, and they were meant to have these talking sessions. He'd come back to me and say, all we did was slag you off. The police are sick of you ringing them. The police have took your phone because they don't want you ringing 999 anymore. And basically they don't believe any of it because, they think you're mad, just think you're an alky and you're just wrecked. I've got nothing to get past this. So
Yeah.
all I'm hearing is this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And the bad
I
stuff's easier to believe, isn't
of
it? When
course
somebody
it
tells you
is. I've got
something
nothing
bad,
to
yeah.
counteract it.
Yeah.
So he's like, they're all laughing at you. And I'm like, they've been out 18 times. That figures really, doesn't it? They don't care. And I remember like an incident when the police came out and he had knocked my front two teeth out, and this lady took a picture. And they came back a couple of days later, and it was the same officer. And she looked at me, and I'd been to the dentist, and my mum had paid to get them thingied back on. And she looked at me and she said, "Oh, if it wasn't me, I wouldn't have believed you." And I was like, and therein lies the
There we
rub.
go. There we go.
That's
Yeah.
it.
So
Because yeah,
because you decided that for your own mental health, go and
yeah,
get the teeth
get them
fixed,
to yeah.
that then turns into a negative because yeah,
Exactly. And
yeah.
she's like, "Oh yeah, I took the pictures," and I was laughing, and I was like, "But this is the issue. I'm
This is my
telling you
life.
all this all the time. This is my life." But
Yeah.
because yeah, and I just thought this just sums it up. And then, um, luckily, thank goodness, I got involved with these people because there was a court situation. Because of my daughter, I got these people involved. Sorry, got involved with me called FDAC, and they're called the Family Drug and Alcohol Court, and it's probably fair to say they saved my life.
Oh,
They came and sat with me, and they wouldn't let him be in the room when they spoke to me, and they said, right, okay, you're gonna have to get rid of him and stop drinking, basically, in order to pick your life back up and get your children back and move on. And I was like, oh, and nobody, I know it sounds really crazy, but nobody had actually said that to me before. I was like,
no.
oh, right, okay. They were like, look, it's your house. He's a grown ass man. He's going to have to find somewhere else
Yeah.
to live. And with the support of these people, they did an incredible amount of work with me and about everything, all sorts of stuff like therapy. And it was really tough. But I just thought, I cannot believe I'm in this situation. And then something happened on the Christmas Eve, and I can't describe it. But I woke up that morning and I just thought, I've got to stop this drink. I've got to stop this because I cannot think straight, and I need to get a plan here. And because I didn't have a phone, I just got an email to my dad, and I just said, Dad, if I can get towards you on Boxing Day, will you pick me up? And he was like, yeah, of course. And I started plotting my way, and I got through Christmas Day. I stopped drinking there and then, and stopped the substance. Everything just stopped. That's my recovery date. And I made a plot. I got through Christmas Day. It was horrific. I didn't have my children. I'm living with this guy. He's still doing whatever he's doing. And I got through that Christmas Day, and it was hell. And I got to Boxing Day, and I said, right, I need to get on these buses. I need to go see my parents. And he's carrying on and all the rest of it because I'm going. And well, what am I gonna do? Da, da, da. And I said, I've got to see my
Grown ass
family.
man, what am I gonna
What am
do?
I gonna do? Poor me. And I just said, look, it's only gonna be for a couple of days, but just let me see my family. I haven't seen my children over Christmas. I need to see my family. And I left. That's when I left, and I didn't know at that time. And I got these two buses to my dad, and I didn't realize at that time that oh, that was it. That was me. But and I got to a bus station, and my dad picked me up, and I got in my dad's car, and it just like he had the
Just
football
breathe.
on, and yeah, and like we'd always go to the football on Boxing Day. That's our thing,
Yeah.
and I was like, the world's been going round, and I just haven't. noticed because I've
Yeah.
been in this horrific situation, and he took me back to my mum and to my mum's and in the retirement village, and my mum was like, we didn't think we would see you again. And I think he was probably pretty close to killing me then. And yeah, and that was the start of the end of it really, and I just thought I'm gonna fight. And I went back to the house about a week later with my mum to try and get some stuff, and basically cuckooed my house. He'd had a key for the back door all along, and
What?
so he'd just gone straight back.
Of course,
And he
yeah.
knew this.
Of
He
course, yeah.
knew this. And my house was wrecked and all of my stuff. Like I'd had some beautiful material things in my life, and I had a full Louis Vuitton luggage set that was just I knew I'd never buy again, and from an earlier life, and it sold the lot. He'd gone through everything of my things and he'd sold everything. My daughter had a little handbag. He'd sold the lot. He had laptop, everything had gone. He'd sold all my stuff, everything. And I called the police and they weren't very interested, but they just basically said, yeah, you can never go back to that house. It's not safe now. And so I had to stay at my mum and dad's. And I just thought, no, I need to fight. I want my children. What have I done? Like going back to my mum's, I've had this life where I've had all these material things, not just that, but my children. And I'm going back to my
Yeah.
mum's so broken. And she looked at me and I was so thin and broken and my face and covered in bruises. My mum couldn't believe it when I showed her on my body and the shame and all of that. And she just said, "We're gonna, sorry, we're gonna,
No, don't, no,
we're
don't be
gonna, we're
sorry.
gonna,
Don't ever be
we're,
sorry.
we're gonna sort this." And my mum got me into like recovery on a 12-step program and started helping me go into meetings. And with that, those people started to love me until I could love myself and rebuilding me. And I just thought, I'm getting my children back. I cannot let this, like whatever's done, no, what's happened here.
Yeah.
And I did. I just threw myself into it, and I was so ill. I was so poorly, physically, mentally. And I don't know how I got through those days, but I just did it like minute by minute, hour by
Yeah.
hour. And my
Yeah.
mum, thank God, was like, she didn't hold any anger or blame with me. She just kept me going. My dad was a bit more, but my mum was like, no, come on, we'll keep doing this. And then I got us a new house in the April, May time, got my kids back and we just started rebuilding. And it's been really tough. Initially when I got over being so ill, I was just full of anger.
Yeah.
Like, how have I ended up here? Why am I
Yeah.
the one that's? And then I remember getting a call from the police and just them just saying, "Oh, we're dropping all this. There's not enough evidence. The CPS have said there's not enough evidence for the teeth situation." And I just went, yeah, I'm just not surprised.
Yeah.
But through going to women's groups, I learned then at these women's groups what gaslighting was, which I know sounds crazy. Like, yeah, I've
Word
got
that so many people banter around, but
it's
don't really understand it unless you've
it's
experienced it.
so mad. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
so it's somebody telling you something and then you believe it and then it's not real. Like, that figures. Like,
It's like
and
the
the
light
side
bulb moment, isn't
light
it? The
bulb.
light bulb
But
goes
it
on.
was
Yeah.
because I realized like I've been buying this and wanting to believe this lies so much that I haven't questioned it and the
Yeah.
cycle of abuse, and it just made so much sense of the relationships I've been in. And it basically was just this me wanting love and trying to think that somebody could give me it when I didn't love myself. And as cheesy as that sounds, I didn't love myself. And so I started having to do the internal work, the mucky stuff and the uncomfortable stuff. But I had to dig deep and I had to really, really look at why am I so insecure? Like, why do I need this? Why do I need somebody to validate me? And that's how I met a lady called Nicola through who runs the Voices Project, who was completely pivotal in my recovery. Through meeting Nicola, I've managed to get a sit-down meeting with West Yorkshire Police where they've opened up my case and
Wow.
apologized.
Ah,
And that's like that's huge,
it
like
is.
why was this done? Why was that done?
Yeah.
We don't know, but there was a massive catalogue of errors. But what we are going to do is we're going to look at certain situations, and they've made direct changes as a result of me speaking to them.
It's
Um, uh,
incredible.
so things with the offender management program, things with the remand situation now, things with taking phones, all of those are as a result of me saying this isn't okay, but this is through the work we've done now with the Voices Project. So that's
Mhm.
just been huge. I got diagnosed with breast cancer the year after, and that was a massive thing because through one of the groups I went to, I met a lady, and she'd been with her perpetrator while she'd been very poorly with cancer, and she said he made it all about him. Do
Ah,
you know? She said, "He's
shocker, shocker.
shocker,"
Made
and
it
he
all
only
about him.
all about him, and she said it
Wow.
was
What am I
horrendous.
gonna do?
Yeah,
How's this
poor
making me
me.
feel? Yeah,
How
yeah,
look
yeah,
at
yeah.
me. And they made her apply for all these benefits, and he made it all about him and poor him. And I thought, yeah, thank God
Yeah.
it didn't happen because he would have had a field
Yes.
day. I'd have had a
Oh,
pity party. He'd have had a field day.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was one of those real like sliding doors moments where I was like, yeah, actually, do you
Yeah.
know what? At least I'm well today. I've found it. We can deal with it. We caught it
Yeah.
early. And I
Thank
haven't
God.
got
Yeah.
anybody else making it about them.
And do you know what? So what I love is the conversation we're having. If anybody was sort of just joining it now, going, "Oh, what are you
Yeah,
talking about?" They'd be like, "Well,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
this is deep, this is dark."
Exactly.
But the way you talk about it, it's exactly what I love and exactly why I do the podcast. Is yes, it is dark and yes, it is horrific.
Yeah.
But look at you now, and like you say, you can see
Mm,
that if you can see it now, going, if I'd have had breast cancer
yeah.
while with that
Oh
person.
my gosh.
Oh my God,
It would have
and
just
it's
been,
weird because I think for so many victims and survivors, your perspective on life changes so much. Like, so you
oh,
might have a friend that goes, "Oh my God, my favorite cushion got ruined," or you're just like, "So what? It's a cushion." Do you know what I mean? Or,
yeah,
"Oh, my favorite dress, look at that." Who cares?
yeah,
Your perspective, when you've lost everything, when
yeah,
you've hit rock bottom,
yeah.
nothing matters. And
No.
in a way, how freeing is it? In some ways, yes,
Yeah.
you won't wish it on anyone what you've been through,
No.
and you are an amazing woman. And I tell you what, I'm normally quite professional. I was filling up before. I was like, oh, my glasses got me going to sneeze off
Oh.
in a minute. The way you talk about it with such empathy, but also you talk about it in a way like you're not judging yourself now. And you
No.
shouldn't, because you've got
No.
nothing to judge yourself for. And
No.
that's what they go for, isn't it? They go for that, the lack
Yeah.
of self-worth, the lack of self-esteem. Let's just pile on that and then make you feel. And you've explained things. I think so many women are going to resonate with what you were talking about earlier about that neediness that we all feel. I'll hold my
Oh.
hands up. I've been in that situation, especially when you're a lot younger and you go, "Oh, but they're showing me all this love and
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's not
Yeah.
love and it's not protection, it's
Yeah.
possession. They just want to possess you. They just
Yeah.
want to have you within their grasp and not let go."
No.
And so, because we want to believe in that dream, in that fairy tale, and I did an episode a while ago with a lady who is a PhD law professor. She's amazing. And she was talking about, Disney sold us this dream as kids, as
Mm.
young women. They
Mm.
sold us this
Mm.
dream that, we're all going to be going off, riding off into the sunset with it,
Yeah.
happily ever afters. They don't
Yeah.
tell you about that. I'd love Disney to do
I know. I
a
know.
darker side one so you can see what reality's really like.
No, absolutely. I remember when I came early into recovery and a lady said to me, nobody is coming to save you. And I was like, oh, salty, but actually,
Okay.
how true though.
Yeah,
And that
yeah, yeah,
actually sums it up. And I had
yeah,
to hear
yeah,
that hard
yeah,
truth of, this is an internal job, this, I can be
yeah,
the only one who can give me that fulfillment. And
yeah.
that's hard. It is
It is.
hard. It's
It is.
really, really hard. But like you so rightly say, the Disney princess is going to
Yeah,
come and he's going to sweep
yeah.
you off and it's all going to be
It's all going to be
fine. And
fine. And
and
it's like, no,
no,
that's not.
it's
And do you know
not.
what I love about when you just said that then about it's only you that can do it.
Yeah.
And I love quotes. I'm always quoting things, especially if I'm doing kind of like one-to-one work with clients and coaching. I will say to them, I was speaking to somebody recently, I said, they were worrying that they were taking 10 steps back. They were
Mm,
thinking of going back to the perpetrator, etc.
mm.
And I said, at the same time, how can you be behind or ahead when it's only you that can take that journey?
Yeah, yeah,
Nobody else can do it. You're not you're not ahead and you're not behind.
yeah,
You're having these thoughts. They're perfectly normal thoughts. Because one thing that doesn't get talked about, I don't think enough, is when you leave a perpetrator, the
yeah.
emotions don't stop. You
No,
still,
no,
because the trauma bond's
no,
there. So you've
no.
believed it's love.
Yeah,
They've done what they've done. And so you're in a
yeah,
situation where you still, and I say to so many people, you are allowed to admit
yeah.
to yourself that you've had feelings for that person, even though you know all the things they've done. But you're
100%.
also allowed to tell yourself, but I'm worth more than that.
Yeah,
I am worth a damn
absolutely.
sight more than that.
Yeah.
And it is only, and it's so cliche, but it is only time, isn't it? Time is the
It
only thing.
really is. It really is. And I'm really glad you touched on that because for me, a lot of the anger was I was so annoyed with myself because, like you so rightly say, your feelings don't just go and
No.
I knew what he'd done and I'm telling my parents, yeah, you know, I absolutely hate him. But the honest truth is it took a long time.
Yeah.
It really didn't. I didn't just switch off from that because I still in my head, when somebody's sort of brainwashed you so much, you don't just go, oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. And
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was so hard because I'm there, like, especially coming off like the alcohol, which I'd used to numb everything. So I'm dealing with all these feelings coming in, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? But at the same time, like, had I seen him, or I had to be at my parents because had I seen him or anything on my own, he could have
Mm.
easily just said, oh, you know, it wasn't that bad, and I'll do this for us, and I'll do that for us. And it doesn't just stop. And I
Mm.
think that's such an important part of when people are just leave them. It's not that easy. It's
No.
really, really hard. Like you say, the trauma bond is massive. Yeah.
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head. And what I never understand is, and we've come back to this a couple of times, is that hideous, dangerous myth of why don't they just leave?
Mm.
And you can see it in people's faces. You can see it in the
Yeah.
faces of services that you're involved with. You can see it in the faces of the judges in the family court. You can see it across the board. Police, everybody are looking at you as if to say, well, why don't you just leave? And it was only I'd say it was only about a year ago, I decided to write a blog about it because it
Mm.
was, at the time I was doing articles for a magazine. I thought, I've got to do something about this because this is one of those statements that really, really pisses me off, to be perfectly
Yeah.
honest. Like one
Yeah.
of these questions, why
Yeah.
don't you just leave?
Yeah.
And I ended up by the end of this article writing, but what most people I would like to think eventually could be their response would be, why would you assume I could? Why make this assumption that I could leave? Where have you got this idea from? Based on your own judgment of what you think my life's about, that you've not lived,
Yeah.
that you've got no understanding of. Why would you assume I could? And that was the answer I came. And so I realized, answer a question with a question now. So when people
Yeah.
say that, why don't you just like, well, why would you assume?
Yeah.
And also, why are you the problem? Why isn't, well, again, it always comes back to, it's like the deflect, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like, you're the problem, but the perpetrator gets to just sit there and go, see,
Yeah.
like you were saying earlier about when the police turned up to go, see,
Yeah.
she's the crazy one,
Yeah.
she's the, because you're reacting to his
Yes.
behavior
Yeah.
and because you're being honest about your things. And I see this so often when I'm talking with people who are dealing with the family courts,
Yeah.
and they're saying to me, I feel like I'm going crazy because I'm the one
Mm.
that's being emotional and emotive,
Mm.
and they're sitting there all calm
Oh,
and going,
calm.
well, see, told you.
Scary.
But
Mm.
actually, the majority of the time, that's the victim who's
Yeah.
reacting in that way.
Yeah.
And they're reacting in that way because this is their life, this is
Yeah.
their children's
This is
lives,
our
and they're now
daily.
starting to process what's been happening, and they ain't putting up with it anymore.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
don't give a toss who they tell.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
In any way.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. And and that's the really upsetting thing. And I've spoke a lot about this in some of the work I've done since, is that what do you expect when you go out to a volatile situation
yeah,
and somebody is like, absolutely, you know, it's their home and all of this stuff. Of course they're going to be upset. And we talk about the importance of maybe like when police go out initially to a situation, the importance of then going back when things aren't as in the moment, and maybe getting a
yes,
statement then, and just, or
yeah,
talking to the victim on their own is just
yeah,
vital when
yeah,
it's not in
yeah,
that mad heat of the moment and when
yeah,
everything's all, you know, all over the place. Because I was so judged, and one of the big things when I did sit down with the police was I said to them, because they were, you've come across so articulate and you're da 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 da. I said the thing is, I'm still me. I'm still this girl
yes,
that was sat in front of a
yeah,
police officer, like getting the kicked out of her. But I was drunk, you know, I'd stick my
yeah.
hands up. I accept that, but I was still this woman who was
Still a
being
person,
assaulted, you
human
know,
being.
and that
Yeah.
why was it ignored so much? And shouldn't somebody have gone, oh, you know what, we've been out to this girl and this guy's got this huge history. Should we not
Yeah.
just go and see her on her own? Or, you know, nobody did.
Do you know what? I wish more people and more police forces could hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
because one of the things, I used to work for my local charity. I'm very fortunate now. I sit on the board of trustees. Love it. Couldn't be happier. They're an amazing charity, and they did a lot for myself. But one of the things I noticed was when the police are involved, when I was in that situation talking to victims and survivors, so often they'll say, "Okay, so I've got this piece of paper here that the
Mm.
police officers left me with. Well, what's this?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't know if it's, and it varies from region to region, doesn't it? So in some
Hmm.
regions it would be like a force-wide incident number, and then they would ask, well, is that the same as a crime reference number? These are
Yeah.
the things
Yeah.
that,
What is
like,
it? Yeah.
actually, what is it?
Yeah.
What am I
Exactly.
dealing with? And
Mm.
so it becomes more and more apparent over time, and you think, yeah, it's not being explained. The police
Mm.
understand the process;
Yeah, they
they get
understand
it.
it, but
They're
yeah.
living it day in, day out. But you've
Yeah.
got somebody who's not only gone through horrific trauma, is in crisis,
Yeah.
and you're saying to them, here's a piece of paper,
Here you go.
there you go. And then when they don't phone, when you
Mm.
expect them to phone, when all these things
Mm.
don't happen, that adds
Absolutely.
to the fear, that adds to the confusion, that adds to
Mm.
all the trauma you're already experiencing. So of course people then have trauma responses.
Yeah.
But if processes were explained, it's the
Were
same with the family court, it's the same
yeah.
with social
Oh,
services,
nightmare. Yeah.
it's the same across the board. If they
Yeah.
all explain the processes in more detail, and I know the answer would be, well, we don't have the time. Well, make the time, because this is
Well,
people's lives.
but it is, and surely in the long run, it will make the process so much
Yes,
easier, wouldn't it? This is
yes,
what I argue about
yes.
because it's at the minute, like they come out and they have this massive dash thing to fill in, and it
Oh
takes
God, yeah,
ages, and people say, oh, they've been in a heightened situation, and
yeah,
now they're filling this in and
yeah,
asking these questions, and then it's all so much, and then people are in family courts and talking legal jargon. How on
yes,
earth?
yeah,
Do you
yeah,
expect people not to get upset and emotional? Because
exactly.
basically it comes from that you don't understand and you're
Your
scared.
head's exploding. Exactly, and
Yeah,
you're coming from a place of fear, and
yeah,
quite rightly so,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
very
Yeah,
often victims and survivors are the ones who are petrified of authority.
yeah.
They would never want to be involved with any of these services. And it's only
Mm.
when you take a step back that you go, but the perpetrator's the reason I'm involved. I would never have been involved with these
It-
services. It would
yeah,
never have happened in a million years.
exactly,
And
exactly.
now I'm
Yeah,
standing back and going, but they're the reason that they've come into my life.
yeah.
And so it's placing, I'm a big believer in placing the blame right where it belongs, at the
This
feet
is
of the
it.
of the
Absolutely.
perpetrator, not on the victim or survivor. And that's why
Yeah.
before, when you quite rightly were emotional, I don't even know how you've done this episode. To be honest with you, you're amazing, and I take the hat off to you. Is, of course, you are going to get emotional, and the thing is, it's none of this lies with you. Like I said to you earlier, don't be sorry.
Mm.
None of it is on you. None of
No,
it is your.
exactly,
And even
exactly.
when,
Yeah,
I had somebody ask me recently about, I'd done a talk, and somebody was asking about alcohol and drugs, and
yeah,
so in terms of the perpetrator, this was,
yeah,
and so is that the reason that they're violent? I said, well, alcohol will it'll exacerbate any situation.
yeah,
It will
yeah,
heighten any
yeah.
situation.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Uh, but it doesn't give a perpetrator the right to. And
No.
very often you do find that that's what they do. They won't have it themselves. They give it to the victim, and
Yes,
so it's
exactly.
let's
Yeah.
and
Oh,
the
yeah.
and build that
Absolutely.
nice little. I'm in control, and I'm just slowly topping you up so that
Yeah.
I can make sure I stay in control. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I mean, there's an amazing book. Can't remember her name now, by the ex police detective who wrote the book Control, and she has an
Oh yes,
amazing
yeah,
chapter about
yeah,
alcohol and drugs, and
yeah,
she explains it so much better than I could ever do. But it's when I read it, I was like, "Oh, you've just said what's happened to me. Like that's
yeah,
exactly what he did, and he knew
yeah,
exactly what he was doing with it.
yeah.
Which is absolutely alarming." And just to go back, like when I was arrested, I didn't even ask. They said, "Do you want a solicitor?" I said no because I thought the police were going to take me in a room and go, "We've got you here, so you're safe, so that we can tell you that we know what's going on." And they didn't, and so I'm there. I've got a caution, and he's there. He gets given
And
an
he's
offender
doing,
management officer, and I'm like, make it make sense. And
yeah,
since like I didn't want 18 involvements with the police. I haven't been involved with the police since, apart from when I'm doing good work with them,
yeah, yeah,
and it's
yeah.
like, but he's got a
Ow.
history as long as this, and I'm there like.
And you're the one
I,
defending yourself and
and
having
I'm
to,
defending
yeah,
myself, going, I don't need a solicitor because I haven't done anything. And then I felt like they really, really let me down, like
yeah,
really let me down badly in that situation, which in turn really made my head just like go crazy.
yeah.
And then you told from him, yeah, they all think you're crazy. It was like,
This is it, comes from
wow.
all angles.
Yeah,
That's
I've got it
it.
every angle. So
Yeah,
it's really
yeah.
like, but you know what? I look back at that girl and I could cry for myself, like who I was, and I feel so sorry for her. I really do. And I can't be angry at myself. I can't be because I was
No.
really poorly. I was really unwell. And somebody took grave advantage of that. But you know what? I can live in that anger. I can sit in that anger, but I don't want to. The forgiveness isn't about forgiveness for him. It's about giving me peace. And
Yes. Yeah.
that's all I can have
Yeah.
because I had to get to a stage whereby he wasn't sitting in my head rent free
Yeah.
because then after that all of that anger I was just left with like I wanted him desperately to pay consequences for his actions
Yeah.
and that really took over my thought process for a long time. I wanted him, I really wanted him to get into trouble.
Justice.
um
Justice for what you've
Justice, I
experienced.
wanted
Yeah.
justice, but it's they say, don't they, the best form of revenge is doing well, and I really
It
truly
is.
believe it's like by
Yeah.
everything I've been able to do, and I've done some incredible things through the work I do today and through working with the Voices Project. I've done the media coverage that I've done and all of the highlighting the importance of Clare's Law, all about violence at Christmas times,
Yeah.
at other heightened times such as World Cups and other
Yeah.
big times when there's lots of alcohol and excitement involved and all those things. And I'm in such a privileged position today, and I really believe like I am the proof of possibility that
Yeah.
you go through stuff and you go one way or the other, don't you? You
Yeah.
get the turnings, you
Yeah. Yeah.
choose
Yeah.
one or the
You
other,
get that
and
crossroad.
you get
Yeah.
the crossroads. And
Yeah.
I've been in groups with girls, and unfortunately they've gone down the other road, and it's heartbreaking, but unfortunately like we talked about, it can only come from yourself to
Yeah.
choose to move forwards with that. And if you do choose, there is an incredible amount of support there. And I just believe in showing that there is the life after, because
Mm.
I'm not going to let my past define me. We don't plant a garden if we don't believe in a better tomorrow, do we? And a
No.
brighter tomorrow. So I just want to keep moving forwards with it and raise the awareness that yes, you might go through something horrendous, but it's what you do with that afterwards. It's where you go with it, the mindset of it. And I want him, I'd love nothing more than him to see me and go, oh God, she's doing well.
Yeah, best revenge, life
Damn.
well lived. And
Yeah.
and actually, it's almost like a thank you, because
Thank
look at
you.
look at what you've
Next.
given
Yeah.
me. Look at what you've given me. Look how many people I've helped
Yeah.
not be in that situation.
Yeah. He'd hate
Thank
it.
you. Do you know what? You are an inspiration. And I think the one thing I was talking with Nicola about the other day is about
Yeah.
hope. And the one thing I always
Yes.
try and bring into when people
Yes.
say to me sometimes, I was listening to an episode and I went in sort of halfway for some reason, and you were laughing. You and this
Yeah.
other person were laughing, and I
Yeah.
thought you were talking
What?
about
Yeah.
domestic abuse. I'm saying,
Yeah.
but that's the point. We
But you
have to
have
make it
to.
accessible to
Yeah.
people. If
Yeah.
we make it too intimidating and too scary, no one would
Yeah.
listen. But I
Yeah.
think what I love about what you've just said as well is about so many people want that, and your family want that, like you say about your dad.
Yes.
And I know
Yeah.
lots of dads who will go, I just want them to pay,
Yeah.
just want them to
Yeah.
pay.
Yeah.
But I heard a brilliant quote the other day, and I'm always putting them on things like
Love
social media
this.
because I love them. And it was about when someone is soft, not like a softie, but when someone's soft with the world, it's not because they haven't seen harshness, it's because they're
Mm,
choosing not to repeat it.
I
And
love
I
that.
love that.
I
I
love
love it
that.
because I just think it's so true. And to me, that's the epitome of what you are, is you've
Yeah.
seen some horrific things and
Yeah.
experienced some horrific things, but you've made that conscious choice to not let it harden you. You've gone,
Yeah.
actually, I can still be soft, in the sense of with the world, I don't have to make
Yeah.
everything a battle. I
Yeah.
don't have to be defensive all the time. I actually can learn to live. And this,
Yeah.
second half of your life, best part of your life, that's what
Yeah.
I'm learning.
Yeah, exactly. I've got two daughters, and it's just incredibly important for me that my daughters they don't see difficulties or
Yeah,
things as being an ending.
yeah,
We will all have obstacles. Nobody said, what do they say? Nobody said life's going to be easy, get a crash helmet. But,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like you got to it's how you go through it and how you come through it. And I really believe like nobody's stories at the end. It's just
no,
about what we do with it and going forwards. And I don't want to live in anger as well, because I could be bitter, I could be cynical. And don't get me wrong, I'm a much better judge of character. But
well, I trust you any day of the week. I would, like, yeah, let Fran make that
so
choice. Come on.
I know, yeah, I hear some things. I think you'll have to get up earlier than that. But you
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I don't want to be like, but I laugh about it though, and
Yeah.
my joy today comes from like so many other places. And I work for a women's charity and it's incredible because we help women back into employment. And this was a charity that helped me when
Wow.
I was, going through
Yeah.
after I was going through stuff because I didn't know where to turn. I was like, what do I do now? Like, I
Yeah.
haven't worked for like properly for such a long time, and life's just been so dark.
Yeah.
I didn't know where the light was again. And so it's somewhere that's helped me that I now work for is it's incredible. It's paying it forward, and it's just like I still want to carry on as long as people ask me for my voice. I
Yeah.
want to keep talking and I
Yeah.
want to raise awareness. And one of the big things that people do say to me is because I'm quite free and open with my story because I think it's
Yeah.
incredibly important. But a lot of people they say, I can't imagine you going through that. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like,
it did. I did.
well, it did. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, like this can happen to anyone. It doesn't discriminate. And you and I have talked about this, how people, and I still believe until probably quite recently, people, authorities still wanted to think domestic violence happens in a certain way to a
Yeah.
certain type of
Yeah.
woman
Certain
or
people. Yeah.
certain people, and
Yeah.
that's it. And
Yeah.
we just tick that box. And I think what's definitely happened over the last few years is that it's raised awareness that this can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be harder to spot in in different situations where, oh, we wouldn't really think that would be the case or
Exactly.
something.
But it doesn't discriminate,
It
does it?
does
That's the
not.
whole
No,
point. It doesn't
exactly.
discriminate. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's so important to raise that awareness of that
Yeah.
we can't judge anybody, we
No.
cannot. This, will happen and does keep happening. And I think the government's idea that, well, we're going to cut violence against women and girls and this, and I'm like, you're nowhere near. I just feel like they're
No.
really just missing the crux of it. And I find that
Oh,
incredibly
yeah.
frustrating. I
Yeah,
don't know
and
what you
that's
think
part of the
about
problem
that.
is I totally agree with you. And I think the problem is unless you have that lived experience, it's
Yeah.
so hard for any professional, whether it's the government, whoever they are, to really truly understand. This isn't something that you're going to talk about halving it.
I
Well,
know.
I mean, we're going to halve it. Why,
Yeah.
why just half?
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
half?
I
What happens
know.
to the other half?
Yeah.
It's just it
I
just to me it shows that it was like in COVID when I think Boris Johnson in one of his speeches, and I remember it sticking in my mind so clearly. If that had happened years previously, it wouldn't have even been on my radar to listen. But because of where I was at, and I was volunteering for my local charity at the time
I
through COVID, because I remember thinking, "Oh my God, can't wouldn't no." Through COVID, in that
yeah.
situation, can't even imagine. Well, I could imagine, but and I remember Boris saying, "You can't leave your home unless you're experiencing domestic abuse." I remember sitting there and looking at the TV and going, "Oh, then that's it.
Oh,
I'm
that's
solved.
fine then.
That's
Yeah.
it. Oh, I never knew it was
Yeah.
that simple. Look at all those
Oh, it,
people sitting.
it's
It just
it's
was
quite
such a
offensive.
off. It was so offensive, and it was
Yeah.
so off
I remember that
the
vividly.
wall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Thinking,
I mean,
where?
yeah.
Where,
I
Boris?
mean,
Where am I
unless you
going?
experienced an abuse. Oh, well,
Yeah.
then. I
Yeah. All
remember
right.
turning to my husband at the time and going, "Oh, well, then that's it. What,
Yeah.
what, what are we all doing in these jobs, in
Yeah.
these roles, in the DAs?
Yeah.
What's the point?" He
Yeah.
solved it. In one,
It
one sentence, he's fixed everything.
I mean, the irony, I've got somebody living with me who's abusing me because of COVID,
Yeah,
because of you forming your bubbles, make it make
exactly.
sense,
It just
honestly.
exactly make it make sense. I'm with
It,
you
I
100%.
find it quite offensive. It's like almost like, oh, we're dealing with it like we're going to deal with the economy. We're just going to halve it. Like you
You just
don't
have,
pluck
I know.
these things out. It's like
No,
it
yeah,
starts, I believe anyway. I think it really starts with going in and educating people
yes.
younger,
Oh, with
girls
you.
and boys,
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
younger, and talking about
yeah.
healthy relationships. I mean, I had a great example with my parents, yet I didn't know or understand what a healthy relationship was because I'd
Look,
just look at my peers and
yeah,
and I
yeah.
just didn't know how to build one. Whereas, like, surely some education going in
Oh
earlier
God, yeah.
would
There's got to.
surely help.
I am with you, and I don't know how many episodes I say this in, but again, quotes. We love a good quote, and it's a Desmond Tutu one. Got to stop jumping in the stream where we are. Go further
Yeah,
back, go further
yeah,
upstream, and
yeah,
see where people are falling in. And that's the whole
yeah,
point with education. And
yeah.
I truly believe
Yes,
educating children in the later stages of primary. You can make
100%.
it age
Yeah,
appropriate, but
yeah,
they're starting to form. ideas in their head of
Yeah.
what their
Of what
friendship
is.
groups
Yeah.
are. So there's the alpha girls and there's the bullies
Yes.
and there's the alpha boys and there's the bullies. And within, if one talk, if the government talks about statistics, if you're looking at a year six group of children,
Hmm.
statistically in the future, how many of them are going to be victims and how many are going to be perpetrators? So
Exactly.
why are we not having that conversation of saying, no, you're allowed to say, no, that's not appropriate, that behavior. If
Yeah.
someone, displays this behavior towards you, why are we not
Yes.
educating them? Because, I truly believe that the world is too scared to have the
Mm,
conversation. It's too
mm.
scared to say, oh no, we can't do that.
Yeah.
Don't bring that, doesn't happen in our school. Don't bring it
Yeah.
here.
Don't bring
Well,
it
actually, I'm
here.
sorry to
Yes.
tell you,
Yeah, actually. Yeah.
it
And
does.
that, yeah. And also having that awkward conversation with children who may be witnessing it
Yeah,
and
exactly.
saying, like,
Thinking it's normal.
raising it's
Yeah,
normal and these
yeah.
conversations and things like that, because I am convinced so much more goes on behind closed doors, and probably
Oh,
more so in
yeah,
the areas or groups where you don't think it's happening and
yeah,
it's more hidden. And it's like,
yeah.
what are our children hearing?
Exactly.
I
And
think we
thinking
have
that
to,
it's
I'm
normal.
thinking it's normal.
And thinking it's normal. Hearing parents or, hearing a father and mother having a
Yeah,
massive row
yeah,
and just as an example, dad screaming at
yeah.
mum, etc. And the child going, oh, well, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, well, that's just how it is. Yeah,
That's just how it
exactly.
is.
Yeah.
And yet you need someone to come in and say, actually, that's not
No,
normal
it's not.
and it's
Yeah.
not appropriate.
Yeah.
It's not normal and it needs to stop. And
Yeah,
you shouldn't have to live in
absolutely.
that. And
No,
that's I
completely
mean,
agree.
there's so much more to, oh, I feel like you and I should just, you know
I
what?
know. We'll
There's a bit
change
of
the
a
world.
contest for the old government. I think you and I should
What?
just nip down to number
I
10
just
now.
don't see why not. You know, you're Manchester. It'll be all right.
We're
Andy
all
won't
right.
mind.
We could make a good go, I think. We'd make a better bloody job of it anyway. I know that.
Exactly,
Oh
exactly,
my God.
exactly.
Oh,
But
Fran.
we're so lucky, like in Leeds, because the Leeds City Council, especially, have really recognised the Voices Project. And
Yeah,
when we get invited to local partnership board meetings where other councils and other places are like, you've
yeah,
got what? You've got
yeah.
lived experience survivors on your meeting. Like, why? Oh my God. And they're
Exactly.
like, because
Yes.
they're the ones directly affected by our decisions, and this collaborative measure that we do with the Voices Project, it's just making so much sense and it's getting recognised. And it might be small steps, but I really feel like we got invited to do a Dutch TV programme about Clare's Law, and people are starting to
Wow.
sit up and listen,
Yeah.
and wanting to hear and finally
Yeah.
realising we can learn from a
Yeah.
lived experience, actually.
Yeah. Absolutely. Oh
So,
my God. And we have to, because what other kind of experience is there? If
yeah.
you don't have that lived experience, then how are you able to understand it? And just thinking for anybody who is listening, and because I am very fortunate, I get listeners from all over the world.
Yay.
If they're wondering what Claire's Law is, on Dipcast,
Yes.
there's a blog, a guest blog that's been written by a
Amazing.
professional about Claire's Law. On the resources page, there's links to Claire's Law, because a lot of people will go, and I know, like you said yourself, afterwards they'll say, I wish I'd have known about Claire's Law sooner.
Yeah,
I'll never know if it would have changed anything. But
absolutely.
having that option
Having the
and being
option.
able to say, actually, maybe my friend could go and ask the question because I
Yeah,
don't feel like I'm in a position to do. There's so many options out there, and we don't let people
absolutely.
know enough. And this is precisely why I'm doing what I'm doing, is
Yes,
get that information accessible to everybody. It's not a close-knit
absolutely.
community that we're trying to keep all
No,
this
no,
information. I'm
absolutely.
trying to say, get it out there
Get it
for
out there,
everybody.
because I always say my advice with Claire's Law would be, say if you've entered a new relationship or you've met somebody, if something in your gut's just going, I don't
Yeah,
know, I haven't got anything concrete, but something's
something's
just
niggling.
request a
Yeah,
Claire's Law,
yeah,
because hopefully they'll say, the person say, yeah, we don't need to, but they might say we need to arrange a visit to come and see
yeah,
you, and then come and see you, and they might disclose something which it's really important, and
you
you
just
need
don't.
to know that
Yeah,
information, because if we're armed with information, we can then make a decision, an
yes,
informative decision on that information that's been disclosed to us.
yeah,
Because sometimes your gut can really tell you a lot. And
yeah,
quite often, quite intuitive, and we know something's not quite right, but because we haven't got anything factual, we can't
yeah,
really,
yeah,
and I just think, what's the harm?
yeah, exactly.
Hopefully
What's the harm?
there'll be nothing.
Yeah,
But something, I know so many instances where something's come back and the police have gone, yeah, we do need to come and see you. And
yeah,
the thing with Claire's Law is that it will disclose. allegations, if there's been any allegations of domestic violence, the
Yeah,
police will disclose this to you. So it doesn't have to be just for convictions. And sometimes there may be that pattern there. And quite often there might be
exactly.
reasons why there's not been convictions.
Exactly. Yeah,
So I think it's just such a valuable tool. And I think it's, like you really quite rightly said, it's available for anybody in the UK.
yeah,
And utilize it. The
yeah,
police have said that in the West Yorkshire police have said the stats for Clare's Law requests have gone up like two,
yeah.
300% or something due to the work that
Amazing.
we've been doing surrounding it. And they are more than happy with that. They're getting more
Yeah.
teams in to deal with it because it's preventative, isn't it?
It's exactly,
Yeah,
exactly, and that's the only way anything's ever going to change. If we start going
exactly.
back again, and like you say, and I was thinking even for because I do get quite a lot of listeners in America, in
Oh,
Australia, if they
amazing.
have family members who are living in the UK that they're
Yes.
concerned about,
Yeah.
go and look at it. Go and
Yeah.
have a look. Go and
Yeah.
see what is available
Yeah.
and find out because it's so important. And that's the other thing, isn't it? It's how I've done a fantastic episode a while ago with a very dear friend, but she's a psychotherapist and she's just amazing. And we talked about the impact on friendships and families, and
Okay.
it's just so important for people to understand. Like you were saying with your mum and dad,
Yeah.
is their reactions to it were different. So then you're having to manage their expectations of what your life's going to be like in the future, and
Yeah.
whilst dealing with everything else yourself. And so I think it's important for family and friends to understand how to approach somebody if they are concerned about a family
Absolutely.
member or a
Yeah.
friend.
Yes.
Because going in guns blazing saying, why
It's
don't you just
not.
leave? I could see
Yeah.
them coming a mile off. You're just going to
Yes.
make that person clam up and say, well, I'm not going to talk to you about
Yeah.
this now. So
Yeah.
making it very clear, like, exactly with your situation that your mum was like, right, we're going to do this, and
Yeah.
your dad handled it in his own way, and
Yeah.
that's that's is the way
Yeah.
it is, and
Yeah.
many dads of certain generations I think would want
Mm,
would handle it the same,
absolutely.
my
Yeah.
dad included.
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
and so I do think that is so important, having that support network
Yeah.
around
That's
you,
so true,
but getting information and saying, okay, we need to look at as friends and family how we're going to approach this
Yes.
instead of going in guns blazing, because you're just coming from your own ego otherwise. You're just coming from your own
Absolutely.
ego, what you think
Yeah.
a
And what
relationship should
you say,
look like.
100%. Yes.
And so instead, very calm. And do you know what the brilliant thing she said was, oh, I wish I could go back now and do things differently, and I would have just listened.
Yeah.
And I just sat with them and listened. And that way, the chances are that person builds the trust with you. They
Mm,
start to open up a bit more. And so it's a very complex
yeah.
situation and issue. But I think the way you are doing what you're doing now, supporting so many people, getting that message out there with a smile on your face, I have to put,
Yeah.
I love smiley people because I always think I'm a bit too smiley for what I do.
No.
I'm way too
No.
smiley. I should be. But,
Yeah. Why
but you,
not? What have I
yeah.
got not to smile about?
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
do think I am so grateful to you for this morning. You're an absolute you're an
Oh,
inspiration. And what this you're the first of many, thankfully, that I'm going to now start on Dipcast doing a section where it's going to be spotlighting victims and survivors. So there's a lot, everybody that listens
amazing.
knows there's lots of DA professionals on there already, lots of different industries. But for me, it's time to start highlighting and putting the spotlight on the victims, giving them the
Yeah.
voice and saying. So that's going to be the plan: is a
Oh.
feature each month. So you'll be the first one.
Oh, that's
There
so
you go.
incredible, Lucy. This is just amazing. I just want to thank you for what you do. Honestly, I've been absolutely obsessed. I've been telling so many people about this. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait. I'm going to get it on Spotify and listen and everything.
Oh,
And I think it's just such a beautiful way of doing it because I don't think you don't. Well, I don't want to sit in the doom and gloom of it all. And it's heavy stuff. It is
it
heavy
is.
stuff. There's no getting around it. And, I'm not going to go into details because I don't think it needs to be detailed about exactly the
Yeah.
level of violence we're talking about because it's horrific. Because I want to live in now, I want to live in
Yes.
the after that there's that life, and I want to live in that proof of possibility about the afterwards. And I just really want to thank you for that because you've made like a really difficult topic relatable and tangible and just
Oh.
like I just think it's absolutely incredible. I think it's groundbreaking. I think it's mega, and I just think everybody should just listen to you because it's really, really special what you do, and I am so grateful.
Oh, thank you. Oh, it's
So
me.
yes.
Oh, that
Some of
has.
your podcasts have just been absolutely, I've just like awe-inspiring. I've been blown away. Yeah, so I'm just so
Oh,
grateful that the link that you and I connected by was like
yeah,
another bit of work which I do through
yeah,
with another women's charity, and that's just I love all the how these all work together because we
yeah,
all want the same thing, is that we all want to show that these people
yeah,
did not define us. We
yeah.
are where we are now, and it's such a powerful
Absolutely.
thing, it's such a powerful message, and it's joyful.
It is. Oh, I don't think I could add anything to that. You're right. It is. It's joyful. And anyone listening, I think, most people will say, "Oh, God, I was smiling by the end of it. I
Yeah,
was when I'm
good.
listening." But
Yeah,
that's what it should be
it
because
should
that's
be.
the message. The message is hope. The message is
Yes,
there is possibility. And like you say,
yes,
the proof and possibility. I
yes,
love that. I'm gonna
yes.
keep that one.
You can have that one. Yeah, I love that.
But you said
I
it here
absolutely.
first.
Yes. No, it's so, yeah,
Oh,
absolutely. What a
oh,
lovely way to start Friday morning.
amazing way to. I've got a spring in my step now. Well, I'm
Yes.
sitting down, but I will in a minute when I
Yeah.
stand up. Oh, I
Yeah.
can't thank you enough.
Yeah,
You've been
thank
absolutely
you.
amazing. Thank you, and have a
Real.
wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Much love. Bye bye.
Bye.
Where